Imagine this. You just spent $48,000 of your own money you saved for your daughter's future, so your little sister could have the perfect beach wedding. You stood next to her in the bridal party, fixed her veil, gave the tear-jerking maid of honor speech, and 3 days later, you pick up her phone and see a text from your husband that stops your heart. Still tasting you from last night. When can I have you again? That happened to me. My name is Harper Grace Callahan. I'm 31 years old. I live in a little blue cottage 2 streets from the Atlantic Ocean and Emerald Isle, North Carolina. And exactly 4 months ago, I spent $48,000 I did not have so my baby sister could marry the love of her life, while she was secretly sleeping with mine. This is the full story of how I found out, what I did about it, and why I will never, ever apologize. It starts the way every good Southern tragedy does, with a text I was never supposed to see. But before I get to the moment that broke me, you need to understand how I got to the place where I would give everything, and I mean everything, to people who never once asked what it cost me. I grew up in a rust-colored double-wide on Highway 24, 15 minutes from Camp Lejeune, where the air always smelled like pine needles and diesel. Our mailbox leaned so far sideways the postman had to prop it up with a brick. The floor in the hallway had a soft spot you learned to step over, or you'd fall straight through to the dirt. My daddy was a Marine for 12 years, until a drunk driver on Weekend Liberty took out his left knee and most of his future. After that, he took whatever jobs didn't ask questions: shrimping boats, convenience store night shift, selling tools out of the back of his truck. The money came in waves and left faster. My mama waited tables at the Waffle House on Western Boulevard. She wore the same pair of non-slip shoes until the soles flapped like dug feet. She smelled like bacon grease and Aquanet, and she still managed to kiss me goodnight every single night she worked doubles. I was the oldest. That meant I was the safety net before I ever understood what the word meant. At 14, I lied about my age and started bussing tables at Krabby Pete's on the Morehead City waterfront. I hid the tips in a Folgers can under my bed. When the power got cut, I paid the bill with crumpled 20s that still smelled like fried shrimp. When Daddy's truck broke down, I bought the alternator. When Mama cried because the electric company wanted a deposit, I handed over every penny I had. I never told anyone at school. I wore the same 2 pairs of jeans until the knees went white, and I smiled like nothing was wrong, because that's what you do when you love people who are drowning. You learn to swim for them. Lily came along when I was 9. Blonde curls, huge blue eyes, the kind of baby strangers stopped to coo over in the grocery store. Mama used to say God gave her Lily to make up for everything else he took. I believed it. I still remember the first time she wrapped her tiny hand around my finger and smiled at me like I hung the moon. I decided right then I would give her the childhood I never got. High school for me was early shifts, late shifts, and whatever homework I could finish in the walk-in cooler between orders. Lily's high school was cheerleading, honor roll, and boys who wrote her name on their cleats. I paid for the cheer camp, the prom dress, the senior trip to Disney. Every time Mama started to say, "Harper, you don't have to," I cut her off with, "It's fine, I want to." Because I did. I wanted her to have magic. I wanted her to believe the world was kind. College was community college for me. 2 years, night classes, full-time job. I graduated with an associate's in business and a full-time marketing job in Raleigh by the time I was 22. I bought a condo the size of a postage stamp and started saving every extra dollar for a house on the water someday. Lily went to UNC Wilmington on a partial cheer scholarship and my credit card. I never resented it. Not once. Then I met Ryan. He showed up at my rental house in Emerald Isle one July morning to replace the rotting back deck. Tan, quiet, calloused hands, and these green eyes that looked at you like he was really listening. He stayed late to fix a loose step without charging me. When I tried to tip him, he just smiled and said, "Buy me a beer sometime instead." 6 months later, we were living together. A year after that, we got married at the courthouse in his dress blues. He'd stayed in the reserves. I wore a $10 sundress from Target and cried anyway. 18 months later, Mia was born screaming at 3:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. Ryan cut the cord with shaking hands. We brought her home to the little fixer-upper we'd bought on Bogue Sound, and life felt perfect. Hard, loud, broke half the time, but perfect. I kept sending money home. Old habit. Mama's car needed brakes. Daddy's diabetes meds went up again. Lily decided to get her master's. I picked up freelance gigs at night after Mia finally passed out. Ryan told me I was killing myself. I told him family is forever. Then Lily met Connor. He was Charlotte finance money, boat shoes, trust fund vocabulary, the kind of guy who called his mother mother without irony. They got engaged 11 months later. The ring was so big, it looked fake. The wedding budget they showed my parents was $60,000. My mama called me crying in the Harris Teeter parking lot. "Harper, baby, I hate to even ask." I wrote the first check that same week. I told myself it was the last big thing. After the wedding, I'd stop. I'd start saving for Mia's college, maybe take a real vacation, just one last time. I paid for everything. The waterfront venue at Wrightsville Beach, the 12-foot peony arches that cost more than my first car, the raw bar, the string quartet, the custom Vera Wang gown Lily found in Charlotte and cried over for 20 minutes, the open bar, the late-night waffle station, ironic, right? The fireworks over the Intercoastal Waterway. I drained the savings account. I maxed out 2 credit cards. I took every side gig I could find. I fell asleep at my laptop with Mia asleep on my chest more nights than I can count. Ryan begged me to stop. "They're grown adults, Harp. Let them figure it out." I told him Lily only gets one wedding day. June 8th came. It was perfect. The sky was that Carolina blue that makes you believe in God. The ocean was flat and glittery. Lily walked down the aisle on Daddy's arm, and every single person in the chairs stood up like they couldn't help it. I stood next to her in sage green silk, holding her bouquet while she said I do. I fixed her veil when the wind tried to steal it. I gave the maid of honor speech everyone filmed on their phones, voice cracking when I said I'd never been prouder of anyone in my whole life. Ryan kissed me at the reception like we were still newlyweds. He spun me under the fairy lights and whispered, "You're the most beautiful woman here." I believed him. The night was magic. Fireworks, dancing barefoot in the sand, too much champagne. Lily hugged me so hard my ribs hurt and kept saying, "I owe you everything." I went to bed happy. 3 days later, I woke up destroyed. We were all still at our beach house. Me, Ryan, Mia. Half the wedding party crashed on every horizontal surface. Lily had left her phone charging on the kitchen island. It was face down, but the screen kept lighting up with notifications. I was making coffee, trying not to wake Mia, when I flipped it over to silence it for her. The preview banner said, "Ryan, still tasting you from last night. When can I have you again?" The mug slipped out of my hand and shattered on the tile. I stood there in bare feet surrounded by broken ceramic and felt the world tilt sideways. I told myself, wrong Ryan, drunk groomsman, cruel prank. I picked up the phone. No passcode. She never had one. You're my safe place, Harp. Why would I ever hide anything from you? I opened the messages. 2 years. 2 entire years of messages. It started innocent. Inside jokes, memes, thinking of you. Then it turned into late-night confessions, then photos, then hotel confirmations, then videos. I scrolled until my thumb cramped. The night Mia had 104 fever and I was in the ER alone, Ryan was in Charlotte. The weekend he told me he had a fishing trip with the guys, he was with Lily in Asheville. The night of the rehearsal dinner, when he said he was too drunk to drive home and slept at the Airbnb, there was a video. I watched 30 seconds before I ran to the bathroom and dry heaved until my ribs hurt. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just sat on the cold floor and counted money the way other people count breaths. $48,000. 2 years of my life. One daughter who deserved better than every single adult in her world. The thank you brunch was the next morning, back at the venue. Everyone was still riding the high. Mimosas, shrimp and grits, beach hair, sunglasses indoors. I got up at 5, drove to a 24-hour notary in Wilmington, signed divorce papers I'd had drawn up months ago, just in case we ever needed them. I stopped at the print shop and made color copies of everything on Lily's phone. I'd forwarded it all to myself before I put it back exactly where I found it. I showered. I put on the same sundress I wore to the brunch rehearsal. I did my makeup like nothing was wrong. When we got to the venue, Lily ran over and hugged me. "Best sister in the world," she said, same as always. They passed the microphone around for final toasts. When it got to me, Lily handed it over with that dazzling smile and said, loud enough for the table, "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Harp." I took the mic. I walked to the front of the room. I smiled at the DJ, a guy I tipped $200 the night before to give me the projector code whenever I asked. I plugged my phone in. The screen behind me lit up with the first screenshot. The room made a noise I will never forget, like every person inhaled at the exact same second. I turned around slowly so I could watch their faces. Ryan went white as the tablecloths. Lily dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the hardwood like a gunshot. And that's when I started talking. Ryan, 12:47 a.m., night of the rehearsal dinner. Left Harper with the baby. Doors unlocked. Come to the bridal suite. Need you now. I let that sit in silence for 5 full seconds. You could have heard a shrimp shell drop. Then I clicked to the next one. A hotel confirmation. The Wrightsville Beach Hampton Inn. 2 nights before the wedding. Paid with our joint credit card. Next slide. A selfie of them in bed. Sheets barely covering anything, timestamped the morning of the wedding while I was at the venue doing last-minute checks with the coordinator. Next slide. A message from Lily to Ryan 3 weeks before the wedding. Once Harper finishes paying for everything, we can finally be together without sneaking around. She'll get over it. She always does. I turned the microphone back on. "Hi, everyone," I said, calm as Sunday morning. "Most of you heard me give a speech 2 nights ago about how my little sister is the best person I know and how I do anything for her. Turns out anything includes paying for the venue where she slept with my husband the night before she said I do to someone else." A woman at table 6 actually gasped so hard she choked on a mimosa. Ryan was on his feet. "Harper, turn it off, you're embarrassing yourself." I smiled at him, the same smile I used to give Mia when she tried to lie about eating cookies before dinner. "No, baby," I said, "I'm embarrassing you." Click. A 10-second clip, audio on, of Ryan's voice from the rehearsal dinner video. "Say it again. Say you love me more than her." Lily's voice, breathy and laughing. "I've always loved you more than her. She's just the bank." The entire room went dead. I looked straight at my parents. Daddy's face was purple. Mama had both hands over her mouth, like she was trying to hold her soul in. I set the microphone on the table in front of Ryan, right on top of the stack of divorce papers I'd carried in my purse. "I paid for every flower you're sitting under. I paid for the champagne you toasted with while you were in the bridal suite with my husband. I paid for the fireworks you kissed under. You're welcome." Then I looked at Connor, poor clueless Connor, who still had cake frosting on his lip from cutting the groom's cake 5 minutes earlier. "Connor, sweetheart, the marriage is legal for now, but the ink's barely dry. Annulment's cheaper than divorce. You're welcome too." I walked. Not fast, not slow, just steady. The way you walk out of a burning building once you realize the smoke is never gonna clear. Daddy tried to grab my arm in the lobby. "Harper, Grace, you get back in there and fix this right now." I looked at the hand he had clamped around my wrist, same hand that never once wrote a check for Lily's wedding. And I laughed. Actually laughed. "Fix it," I said. "Daddy, I just showed 180 people the truth. That's the first honest thing this family's done in years." I pulled free and kept walking. Outside, the June sun was brutal. I got in my car, rolled every window down, and drove straight to the courthouse in Wilmington. By 2 p.m., I had filed for emergency sole custody, a restraining order, and divorce on grounds of adultery and financial fraud. Because yes, Ryan had been moving money from our joint account to Lily for 2 years. By 4 p.m., the locks on our beach house were changed. By 6 p.m., every single thing Ryan owned was in black trash bags on the curb getting rained on. By 8 p.m., the video of my brunch speech was already on TikTok. Someone's aunt had filmed the whole thing on her phone. By midnight, Lily had called me 63 times and left 27 voicemails that went from crying to bargaining to screaming that I ruined her life over one mistake. I listened to exactly one. "Harp, please, it just happened. We didn't mean for it to go this far. You have to fix this. You always fix things." I blocked her number and went to sleep with my daughter curled against my chest, breathing little puffs of air that smelled like goldfish crackers and baby shampoo. The fallout was nuclear. Connor filed for annulment the next day. Lily moved back into the double wide with our parents the same week. Ryan tried to come home drunk at 2 a.m. 3 nights later. The Carteret County deputy who lives across the street put him in cuffs on my front lawn for violating the restraining order. He spent the night in jail and his truck got towed. My parents showed up the following weekend with Lily sobbing in the back seat like a child. Mama begged me to think of the family. Daddy threatened to knock some sense into me. I called the same deputy. They left with a warning. The extended family group chat exploded for weeks. Aunts I hadn't spoken to in 10 years called me cruel, dramatic, unforgiving. Someone made a Facebook post about praying for the prodigal daughter. I screenshotted it, posted it to my story with the caption, "The prodigal daughter paid for the golden calf too. Y'all enjoy the barbecue." I stopped answering the phone for anyone with my last name. 4 months later. Divorce is final next week. Ryan lives in his work truck parked behind the Bojangle on 70. He lost his contractor's license when the fraud charges stuck. Lily's annulment went through. Connor's family made her sign an NDA and pay back every penny of the wedding gifts. She works the drive-thru at Cookout now. Still blonde, still pretty, doesn't smile as much. Mama and Daddy's power got cut last month. They left me a voicemail asking if I could help just one more time. I didn't call back. Mia and I live in the little blue cottage we rented after I sold the beach house. Split the equity 50-50 with Ryan, paid a lawyer, kept enough to give my daughter the childhood I never had. We eat dinner on the porch every night the weather allows. She starts kindergarten in 2 weeks. She hasn't asked about her daddy in a month. Sometimes tourists stop and ask to take pictures of the cottage because it looks like it belongs in a magazine. I let them. I painted it that color on purpose. The exact shade of Carolina sky right before the sun drops into the water. I still wake up some nights reaching for a baby who's already 4 years old, heart racing like the world is ending. But then I hear the waves 2 streets over, and I remember. The world didn't end. It just stopped belonging to people who never deserved it in the first place. So no, I'm not sorry. I'm not the villain. I'm the one who finally stopped paying for everyone else's fairy tale with pieces of my own soul. And for the first time in 31 years, I'm free. If you've ever had to choose yourself over the family that kept taking until there was nothing left, drop a rum. I read every single one. And if anyone ever tells you blood makes family, remind them. Sometimes the people who share your blood are just the ones who know exactly where to cut.